Hi kids, welcome to week 6 of Sunday School Online. 6 weeks, boy I miss you guys. Now, before we get started, I want to answer last week's riddle. I asked you if you have 2 coins that equal 30 cents and one is not a nickel, what are they? Well, 2 coins, one is a quarter, the other is a nickel. Now, this week I have a mathematical riddle for you. There are 10 roosters. 5 of them lay 2 eggs, and 5 of them lay 3 eggs. How many eggs did they lay altogether? Again, parents, don't help the kids. Let them figure this one out. Now, this week we're going to be reading from Acts chapter 2, verse 1 through 8. And it begins like this. During the festival, many gathered together, and suddenly a loud sound came from heaven of a blowing wind, violent blowing wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. And when they looked up, they saw a group of fiery tongues together, and the group of tongues separated and rested on each of the disciples. And then, suddenly, they were filled with the Holy Spirit, and they began speaking in other languages, just as the Holy Spirit had enabled them to do. Now, outside, they were in the city of Jerusalem. Many people lived in Jerusalem from all places, all nations, speaking all languages. Now, when they heard the sound of the roaring wind in the house, they all crowded and gathered together to see what was happening. When they approached the house, to their bewilderment, they saw the apostles speaking in other languages. And they said to themselves, "How can this be?" And as they got closer, they saw that they were men from Galilee, speaking and sharing God's words with each of them in their own languages. Wow, isn't that amazing? So what does this story tell us? What's the miracle that happened in this story? Well, you could say it was the roaring wind that came from heaven and filled the house. Or you could say it was the fiery tongues that appeared in a group and then rested on each of them. But I think the main thing that happened was they were each filled with the Holy Spirit and then empowered with other language to share God's words in other language. So, the Holy Spirit, what is that? Well, the Holy Spirit fills each of us who are believers in God and empowers us to share God's words. So, are we born with the Holy Spirit? No. Each of us are born sinners. Remember, Jesus was beaten, stabbed, treated very badly, and then hung on a cross to die. And for what? For our sins. So, in the Great Commission, he asked the apostles, he said to them, "Now go and make disciples of all nations." Now, this is what happened. They were filled with the Holy Spirit. Now, that Holy Spirit fills believers of God. So, let's think about this. How are we empowered by the Holy Spirit? Well, we are empowered by once we're believers, we hear God's message. Then we obey his commands. Then we tell others. So in that order, remember, first we must receive God, receive the Holy Spirit, become believers. Then we must hear and listen and obey the commands of what God teaches us. Then we must go and tell others. So who do we tell? Well, we tell non-believers. So now since the Holy Spirit's empowered us, once we know these things, he's empowered us to go out and share this with others. Those others now can believe in God, then be filled with the Holy Spirit, which enables them to hear, obey God's commands, and then go out and do what? Share and tell others of what they know of God. This happens again and again, and that cycle continues, just as Jesus asked us to do. Go. I command you to go out and make disciples of all nations, of all people. And this is what grows our church. So, this week, as you're thinking about that, I want you to think about how you are filled with the Holy Spirit, and how can you listen as you do, obey, and tell others of what you know. Have a great week.